Good day everyone, my name is Vincent A. Villacorta from Filipino Department and I will be the reporter today. So today, I will report the human sexuality, incest. Incest is sexual activity between family members who are forbidden to marry due to their close kinship. It constitutes a cultural taboo in most societies and is often forbidden by law. Which family members constitute those covered by the incest provision varies according to the culture. Generally, however, close members such as siblings or parents and children are included, while provision on more distant relatives such as cousins vary. Whatever the extent of the prohibition, however, incest is almost universally condemned and viewed with horror. Form of incest. Incest is defined as sexual activity between family members who would be forbidden, either legally or socially, to marry. It derives from the Latin incestus or incestum. The substantive use of the adjective incestus meaning unchaste, impure, which itself is derived from the Latin castus meaning caste, chaste. Incest constitutes a cultural taboo in most current nations and many past societies. In many areas, incest is also prohibited by law. Which family members constitute those covered by the incest prohibition is determined by the society in which the person lives. Some societies consider it to include only those related by birth or those who live in the same household. Other societies further include those related by adoption, marriage, or clan. The term incest can include sexual activity between family members of any gender and can include family members of any age. When one of the family members involved is a minor, incestuous activity has also been called intrafamilial child sexual abuse. Parental incest. Incest perpetrated by parents of either sex against children or of either sex is generally considered a form of child abuse. Sibling incest between children. Consensual incest between similar-age brothers and sisters is not uncommon, according to a study by Floyd Martinson, who found that 10 to 15% of college students had childhood sexual experience with a brother or sister. However, only 5 to 10% of those included intercourse and therefore most probably represent a form of childhood sexual curiosity and experimentation. Sexual relations between cousins and other distant relatives. In most of the Western world, while incest generally describes forbidden sexual relations within the family, the applicable definition of family vary. Within the United States, marriage between first cousins is illegal in some states, but not in others. Sociologists have classified marriage laws in the United States into two categories. One in which the definitions of incest are taken from the Bible, which frowns upon marriage within one lineage but less so on one blood relatives, and one that frowns more on marriage between blood relatives such as cousins, but less on that within one lineage. Many states prohibit marriage between first cousins, and another permit them only under special circumstances. Utah, for example, permits first cousins to marry only if both spouses are over age 65 or at least 55 with evidence of sterility. North Carolina permits first cousins to marry unless they are double first cousins, cousins through more than one line. Maine permits first cousins to marry only upon presentation of a certificate of genetic counseling. Other states, with some, but not absolute limits on first cousins marriage, are Arizona, Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. So, dito na tayo sa history. It is generally accepted that incestuous marriage were widespread at least during the Greco-Roman period of Egyptian history. Numerous papyri and the Roman census declaration attest to many husbands and wives as being brother and sister. Incestuous unions were frowned upon and considered as nefas or against the laws of gods and man in Roman times, and were explicitly forbidden by an imperial edict in 295 CE, which divided the concept of incest into two categories of unequal gravity: the incensus juris gentium, which was applied to both Romans and non-Romans in the empire, and the incensus juris civilis, which concerned only the Roman citizens. Therefore, for example, an Egyptian could marry an aunt, but a Roman could not, despite the act of incest being unacceptable within the Roman Empire. Roman Emperor Caligula is rumored to have had open sexual relationship with all three of his sisters, Julia, Livilla, Drusilla, and Agrippina the Younger, and to have killed his favorite Drusilla when she became pregnant with his child. Customs have changed in the United Kingdom, with incest at one time apparently being normal practice, at least in the south of the country. When Julius Caesar invaded Britain for the second time in 54 BCE, he noted the customs of the Britons, remarking wives are shared between groups of 10 or 12 men, especially between brothers and between fathers and sons. But the offspring of these unions are counted as the children of the man with whom a particular woman cohabited first. Laws regarding incest. Incestuous relations between adults, such as between an adult brother and sister, are illegal in most parts of the industrialized world. These laws are sometimes questioned on the grounds that such relations do not harm other people, or provided the couple have no children, and so should not be criminalized. Proposals have been made from time to time to repeal these laws. For example, the proposal by the Australian Model Criminal Code Officers Committee discussion paper, Sexual Offenses Against the Person, released in November 1996. This particular proposal was later withdrawn by the committee due to a large public outcry. Defenders of the proposal argue that the outcry was mostly based on the mistaken belief that the committee was intending to legalize sexual relations between parents and their minor children. The laws of many U.S. states recognize two separate degrees of incest, the more serious being the closest blood relationships, such as father, daughter, mother, son, and brother and sister, with the less serious charge being pressed against more distantly related individuals who engage in sexual intercourse, usually two and including first cousins and sometimes half cousins. Many incest laws do not do not expressly prescribe sexual conduct other than vaginal intercourse, such as oral sex or any sexual activity between relatives of the same sex, true if either party is a minor. It may be punishable otherwise. In the wake of the Lawrence v. Texas 539 U.S. 558-2003 decision by the U.S. Supreme Court striking down laws criminalizing homosexual sodomy as unconstitutional, some have argued that by the same logic laws against consensual adult incest should be unconstitutional. Some civil libertarians argue that all private sexual activity between consenting adults should be legal, and its criminalization is a violation of human rights. In Matt v. Frank 14, 4112 412 F3D 808, the 7 U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals interpreted the case applying to homosexual activity and refused to draw this conclusion from Lawrence. However, a decision that attracted mixed opinions, and Supreme Court refused to hear the case. Religious views of incest. Biblical references. The book of Leviticus in the Bible lists provisions against the sexual relations between various pairs of family members. Father and daughter, mother and son, and other pairs are forbidden on pain of death to have sexual relations. It prohibits sexual relations between aunts and nephews, but not between uncles and nieces. Christians interpret it to include the latter by implication, though Jews traditionally do not. Islam. The Quran mentions incest in the Surat An-Nisa, which prohibits a man from having sexual relationships with his mother, daughter, sister, maternal aunt, and niece. Relations with wet nurses are also prohibited. But on the other side, Islam allows marriage with cousins and other more distant relatives. Only in case of marriage does Islam allow sexual relations between cousins and other distant relatives. Hindu opposition. Hinduism speaks of incest in highly abhorrent terms. Hindus were greatly fearful of the negative effects of incest and thus practiced to date strict rules of both endogamy and exogamy, that is, marriage in the same caste or varna, but not in the same family tree or gotra or bloodline, parivara. So, dyan na po nagtatapos ang aking report. So, pasensya na po sa aking boses kasi masama po ang aking pakiramdam at ako'y inuupo. So, salamat po sa pakikinig.